What's up, YouTube? WinterGuard here. Today we're going to do something a little different from the normal Magic Find runs. We're actually going to talk about how Magic Find works, maybe clear up some misconceptions on what it actually does, what it affects, how much you need maybe. We'll get into a few things. It's kind of a broad subject. There's a lot of things you can delve into when it comes to Magic Find, but we're just going to touch on the basics. And maybe, in a future video, if we need to, we get into more detail. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people that offer their comments on how it actually works and some interesting tidbits that maybe we don't know. But for now, we're just going to touch on the basics, just so for those returning players that haven't played in a long time, new players, maybe some people that just misunderstand what it does. We'll clear that up for you guys. And kind of dive into it a little bit. I don't want to go too deep on this because we can go for a while if we did that. So basically, Magic Find increases your chances of an item that drops to have a better quality. And what I mean by that, any monsters that you kill have a loot table. From the just a little devilkin out in Act 1 all the way up to the bosses, they have a specific loot table that is rolled on that determines what items drop. So Magic Find does not have an effect on that. So what I mean by that, say for instance, you kill Mephisto. Mephisto has, and this is not true as far as what he drops. I'm just saying this as an example. Say for instance, his loot table says that he will drop up to 3 or 4 items, some gold, potions, whatever's in the loot table. That's all rolled randomly. Magic Find will not affect that. So say for instance you get a specific item drop, and we're talking about the base item. Say for instance say a Monarch Shield. So what happens from that point, once the table determines that the Monarch Shield is going to drop, this is where Magic Find comes into play. There's a chance that it will either be a unique, a rare, a blue item, or a normal item, white item, or gray with sockets. And what Magic Find does is it ups the chances of it being unique, or being rare, or being blue. So say for instance, the item drops and the base percentage from that drop is 1% that it will be a unique. Magic Find will change that 1% up depending on how much you have. So as a base instance, if it's a 1% with 0 Magic Find, 100 Magic Find will make that 2%. Now these numbers are just made up. I don't know what the actual percentages are. I don't think anybody actually does. That's buried within the database somewhere. We don't have access to it. We're just using round numbers just to make it simple. That's all Magic Find does. It does not increase the number of items that drop. It does not change what items drop from the loot table. So, as I said before with the Monarch example, once the loot table makes a roll and determines that a Monarch Shield drops, Magic Find then determines the quality, or not determines, it modifies the chance of the quality of the item. So again, if there's a 1% chance for that item to drop as a unique, Magic Find will modify that 1% upwards depending on how much Magic Find you have. So, and this is not a one-for-one instance. Magic Find does have diminishing returns. I put up a table here that will show where it kind of rounds off. It's not a straight line. It does not one-for-one increase 1% Magic Find, 1% more chance of it being better. It does round off and has diminishing returns. So you want to shoot for a number that helps you clear faster while being high enough to actually make a noticeable effect on the quality of the items. So I personally are shooting for somewhere between 200 to 250% magic find. Depending on what I get, it might creep a little bit above that, but I'm all about killing stuff faster and killing more stuff. So that for me is what I'm comfortable with. Some people prefer 500% magic find, and that's fine. If you could kill stuff quick enough with that and you're comfortable doing that, it does have an effect on the items that drop or the quality of the items that drop. So uh, there's not a perfect number to shoot for. Again, there is diminishing returns once you get above a certain point. So that's kind of up to you to what you feel best with. My number is between 200 and 250. It might change, because depending on the type of character you're playing and what's available for magic finding for that character, it could be a little higher. Sorceresses can have higher magic find and clear quite quickly, and you could also have items on switch just for the killing blow. Magic find is determined at the time the monster is killed. So for bosses, a lot of people will switch to say an Alibaba on switch for their main hand, which I don't know off the top of my head. It's a lot of magic find. It doesn't affect your damage. It actually reduces your damage if you have like a decent main hand. So I mean, it's all about doing it at the right before whatever you're killing drops. You do the switch, it dies. Whatever you have in as magic find at that exact moment determines the role for the quality of the item. So that's all magic find does. It does not change anything else. It will not increase the number of drops you get. It will not increase it will not affect what's base item drops. That is all done through RNG, through the loot table for that specific monster. Magic Find only comes into play once that item is selected or generated through RNG. Then Magic Find comes into play and determines the quality of that item. And say, for instance, it drops an item that doesn't actually have a unique to that type of item, it will go down the table. If I'm not mistaken, if it doesn't have a set or unique, it changes the properties of the rare or the blue item. I think it increases durability by so much if it rolls unique, but that item doesn't actually have a unique. It will make changes down the table. So what it does first, it does a roll to determine if it's unique. If it fails that roll, it then determines rare, or no, I think it goes unique, set, rare, blue, and then normal. So there's multiple rolls that happen at the time of drop, and depending on what's available for that item, Magic Find comes into play at that point. So don't think that it will increase the number of items that drop. I think that's a common misconception. People think the more Magic Find, the more stuff drops. That's not the case. It does not affect what drops. People say farm Mephisto for Shaco, and maybe within Mephisto's loot table, maybe Shaco has a higher percentage. Nobody really knows that. I think that's all anecdotal. Um, People farm Mephisto a lot and just for whatever reason might get on a streak and get a Shaco or even a couple of Shacos, and they think that there's a higher chance for that on that boss. That's not necessarily the case. There's also a case for treasure classes based off of monster level. Some bosses can drop certain treasure classes. That's a whole different topic of conversation that we could possibly get into. But those things, it can get a little complicated because that um, certain boss types have better chances to drop. Say, take Pendle for instance. He has a chance, or not a chance. He will always drop 2 items. So um, if you kill certain monsters, there's a roll that happens where if it has a chance to drop an item, but it can fail that roll and not drop one at all. Pendleskin, for instance, will always drop 2 items. So then Magic Find is is great on Pendleskin because since he will always drop 2 items, Magic Find will affect the quality of those 2 items. So there's nuances to that you could get into, and you could spend hours diving into it. There's a lot to it. But one thing, or a couple of things it does not do, again, it does not affect the number of items that drop, and it does not affect what drops. It only affects the quality of what drops. So take that into consideration when you are farming, where you want to farm. There's a lot of stuff online, a lot of resources available to look into that. But for me, and my suggestion to you is to get enough Magic Find that makes you comfortable killing things. If you have a lot of Magic Find, but you have a hard time getting through certain areas to kill stuff, then maybe you need to make some adjustments, reduce the Magic Find a little bit, and increase your kill speed or damage that you could do to offset that so that you can get through areas quicker while you're farming. Magic Find is a great stat to use, of course, as you're gear hunting. That's one of the main drivers of Diablo 2. I think they got the loot system almost perfect, which is why 20 years later we're still playing it, and arguably why D3 did not do as good. They did not nail the loot system like they did in Diablo 2. I mean, there's a lot of arguments for that, but that's something to think about. Again, we could spend hours on this topic, but we're not gonna. I just wanted to drop a little information so you guys understand how that works, and maybe it'll help you out in your gear selection. Me, for instance, I went Hodo instead of an Oculus. That's a personal preference. I'm not saying to do that. I like the kill speed. I will make up for Magic Find somewhere else. Go with that. I mean, it's a personal preference when it comes down to it. Of course, RNG affects you in that way as well. I mean, if you're not finding the gear, it's hard to make those selections. So there's some of that to be said. But we'll leave it at that. I'm going to put up some resources that I use. I'll put that in the description if you guys want to check it out. This game has been around for 20 years, and from what I understand, and I'll take their word for it, Blizzard did not change the loot system when they created D2R. And honestly, it doesn't seem like they have. I've played the regular base Diablo for a long time. The looting still seems to work the same way. There are some bugs that need to be looked at. I don't know about you guys, but when I killed Duriel, I get nothing but town portals. I don't know why that's the case. But there's little things that they need to change. But I think as far as the base loot system, I think we are looking at the same. I don't think they've messed with it. So there's that. And for you guys in the comments where I screwed up the G-face pronunciation, I think I said Galami or something like that. I did look it up. I realized it is French, the French version of William, if I'm understanding that correctly, and it's Guillaume. Might still be butchering it. I think that's what I saw when I looked it up. I think some people had some laughs about that, but that's fine. I did butcher the hell out of the pronunciation of the G face. I believe it's Guillaume. But we'll leave it at that. Leave a comment if you have anything to expound on that. If you have resources that you use that help you with the understanding of Magic Find. I just wanted to touch base on some basic information about how it works, and just to open up the conversation. I'm sure there'll be a lot of input, and I appreciate it. I always appreciate the comments, good or bad. I'm looking at possibly shortening my intro, as a few people have mentioned. I realize that maybe it is only 20 seconds, but if you want to get into the information, 20 seconds can be a little drawn out. So I'll probably be messing with that. But if there's other things you guys want to touch on, I have played this game for a long time, or there's some things that I do know about it that maybe I just assume everybody knows that maybe we can expound on. But we'll leave it at that. And you guys have a great day. Keep on farming.